All right, welcome to I Guess I'll Do It with Pat House. Today, I have a great guest. We've known each other for a long time, been on Conan many times, we've worked together many times, and today I have Mark Normand. What's up, dude?
Woo! Good to be here, Patty. Always a pleasure. Whenever I'm working a Helium or a club in Philly and you're opening, it's always more work.
Oh, I appreciate that. That's kind of you, you sly dog.
Not that you're not a headliner yourself. I'm just saying you are the quintessential towny guy that knows the city up, down, left, right, and I'm the outsider cum guzzler who doesn't know anything's going on, and you come in and blow the roof off.
Oh, thank you, man. The last time we worked together in Philly, that was a really fun week. I remember we had a you had a Sunday show in Philly, don't you? Typically?
Oh yeah. In Philly, I do. Rarely I do, but I love Philly.
Dude, I remember that week was like 6 for 6. All 6 shows were great, and that Sunday show was ridiculous. I remember
Killer. Sunday's cool because I feel like if people come out on a Sunday, that ain't date night. That's like we want to actually listen and see some comedy. So it's always my favorite. Thursday too. It's always my favorite crowd because it's not date night.
Yeah, real comedy fans come out on the off nights. Friday, Saturday, date nights, bachelorette parties, dumb shit. But like weeknights and Sunday are like people that want to go out and enjoy live comedy.
Here. Totally. I completely agree. And that's why I try the weird shit, the new shit, the shit that, Sally Q in her best dressed outfit going to the club on Saturday night is not going to want to hear my off obscure Jew chunk.
Who doesn't have an off? I forgot the exact words you just said. I was
obscure. Going to say, I don't know where I got
Jew
off.
Chunk.
Obscure. Yeah.
So now we've met in New York and Philly over the years, but you're from New Orleans.
Oh yeah.
Did you start there?
I did. I actually started. My first set was in Lafayette, Louisiana, which is about 3 hours out of New Orleans, because I didn't want anyone I knew to be there. And I wanted it to be completely anonymous, and I wanted to throw it against the wall and see what stuck and try it out. My friends were a bunch of meathead douchebags who were like, oh, you're going to try stand-up comedy at theater, queef, what the hell's wrong with you? Oh, yeah, you got to get up and tell your jokes. So you think you're funny? So there was a lot of that. Now they're all firemen and mechanics. But I wanted to get out and really get comfortable in our strange place.
Yeah, well, a 3-hour ride away is pretty far. I mean, that's not around the corner.
No, but I mean, it was so fun because back then, in the first early days of stand-up, it was so terrifying that I had to, that 3 hours flew by because when you're scared, time just flies because you're just like, what am I going to say? What if I get heckled? What if I forget? What if I go blank? Who's going to be in the audience? What if I bomb? So that 3 hours was nothing.
Was it an open mic? What kind of place was it?
It was a fucking open mic in the back of a bar. Yeah, it was nothing.
Typical story for a lot of people, yeah.
Yeah, and I ran the light. I went long. I bombed. I didn't know what the light was. But I remember instantly loving it, like getting there, and we had a comedy meeting where like some guy with a clipboard's like, all right, sign your name up here. You're going to go first. This is how I'm going to hose it. And I remember being like, oh, I love this already. I'm already a part of something. I was such a loser that it was fun to be a part of something.
Now, I don't know anything about Louisiana. It's actually a state I have never even stepped foot in. Is there a big scene in Lafayette? Like,
no.
Were there enough?
It's a college town. It's a cute Louisiana town. And there was just some open mic that some comedy guy put together. And I heard about it. I was a waiter at a Mexican restaurant in Baton Rouge, and he mentioned it. Because back then, there was no websites and Facebooks and all that. So you didn't know. You had to go word of mouth. And you had to go through the phone book, call a comedy club. What night's your open mic night? And they'd go, it's Tuesday, but you'll never make it. Kill yourself. And you go, thank you. And that's kind of how it went back then. And so some guy told me about it, and I said, I'm in. And that was it.
That's pretty cool. That's worth it. I mean, I would probably drive 3 hours too for something like that. So I agree with that. And when I started, I didn't tell my college roommate came with me for my very first set and the next couple, but I didn't tell our other college friends for like 3 or 4 more months.
Yeah.
Like I didn't want anybody to know. And only one person, my college roommate, Jeff, knew. And he did a great job of keeping it under the rug with me.
Same way. It's like going gay. You got to like come out slowly. And then eventually when you have an act, then you're like, all right, I'll tell some people. But I never got the bringer stuff and all that. I didn't want my friends to see me. They were too mean.
So you were worried about them just giving you bullshit, just them giving you a hard time?
Oh yeah, them giving me a hard time. They would heckle. I mean, they still have heckled me since then. But I'll go back to New Orleans and have like a big fun homecoming show, and they'll be like, "Remember that time you wet the bed at the museum or whatever the hell?" And I'm like, "All right, shut up." But they're those guys. But you live, you learn, you queef, you jizz, whatever it is. But yeah, I was embarrassed that I was even doing it. I think.
Why is that?
Not because, there's nothing wrong with being a comic. Obviously, I wanted to be a comic. I was just embarrassed that, like, I was attempting something. I was trying something. And that alone was enough for ridicule.
Yeah, it's fear of the unknown and failure. You don't want to have your friends know that, like, you did something and then failed at it, and then you get even more shit for that.
Yeah, exactly. So I just wanted to make it my own thing. It's like I bought this classic car. And everybody's like, "You're going to tell Jerry about the car?" Because, I have Jerry Seinfeld's phone number. And I'm like, "No, this is my car. This has nothing to do with him." And I feel the same way about stand-up. Like, this is my thing. I don't need to tell everybody. I just want to try this out and have fun.
Absolutely. I agree with that because it's a very solo thing, too. It's your own thoughts. It's your own. Oh, yep, 100%.
Love solo. I was a skateboard nerd. I was obsessed with skateboarding. And the similarities are bananas.
Well, okay, go on.
Okay, well, first of all, it's an individual achievement. You go, I got to learn how to kickflip. Nobody can help me. There's no team aspect. I got to just kick this board under my feet 8 zillion times till I land it. Then once you land it once, you figure out how you did it. Then you keep doing it. And then eventually you do it down. You learn a kickflip. Now you got to do it down 2 stairs. Then you got to do it down 3 stairs. Then you got to do it over a bush or over a gap. And that's the same with comedy. You got to learn that joke. You got to hammer it. And just like doing a kickflip downstairs, now that you've written a joke in your apartment, you got to do it in front of a crowd. Then you got to do it in front of a bigger crowd. Then you got to do it in front of a TV set or a camera or a Netflix, and then it just goes on and on.
Yeah, no, you are absolutely correct, and I'm glad you have the skateboarding analogy because I've been golfing for fun for like 10 years. But this year with the pandemic, I started golfing once or twice a week, and it's the exact same thing. It's individual. Some days are really fucking bad, but if you like get 2 pars in a row, like having 2 good sets in a row, you're like, all right, okay, this is why I do this. This is good. Yes. We're getting somewhere. I learned something. I fixed something. I figured something out.
Yes, exactly. Boy, by the way, golf. I'm ignorant and I'm ashamed, but I always looked at it like this elitist, khaki pants, pink polo shirt, dweeb guy. I went and hit some balls at a driving range. I had a fucking blast.
Dude, it's so much fun. And I've spent a lot of years bartending at a public restaurant, and most of my regulars were animals.
Yes.
Yes, there are very wealthy people, but there are a lot of blue-collar, everyday working guys who work in concrete, who own this and own that. There's a lot of everyday average men and women that love it. Because I suck. I still suck, but I've gotten better, and it becomes addicting.
I believe it. I mean, it's so therapeutic hitting that ball. And I've only done the range. I've never actually done the walking with the cart and the 18
fuck that.
holes.
I rent a cart. I'm not walking for shit. I'm walking to my ball, but I'm not.
Well, my point is, like, once my friend showed me how to hold it, and then you start getting it down. Before I was slicing it left and right. And then once you start getting it going, and hitting that ball feels so good. Then you got the beer in your hand. You're clinking the beers. You watch your friend. Then you take a turn. It's fucking great. You're out in the sunshine. It's a perfect line between being outdoors and doing a sport, but not actually doing that much effort.
Unless you suck, and then while your friend who's good shoots like a 70, and you're shooting like a 120, doing almost double the amount of work that they are.
Yeah, I guess. But when you're just hitting that driving range and you got a couple of ice cold beers in a bucket. Boy, that's a good living right there.
It's fun. So how did that first set go? So when you did that very first set in Lafayette, how'd it go?
Oh, it was horrible. I mean, I bombed. I had a yeast infection at the time, which for a man is called jock itch. But let's be honest, it was yeast. And I did this whole routine about having a yeast infection and how I'm like baking bread in my pants and it's more of a sourdough and all this horrible, horrible jokes. And I bombed, and I didn't know what the light was, so I went too long, and they had to cut my mic, and the guy had to, he was on the side of the stage going, get off, what the fuck are you doing? And I was so keyed up and like I was so in the zone that I didn't know what he was talking about, and I just floundered up there and I got off and I had a blast.
You had a blast even though you bombed.
Bombed horribly, but I got really drunk at first because out of pure fear. I was so scared.
How old were you?
22.
Okay.
Something like that.
I was 19 the first time I stepped on stage. So
wow.
I can technically say teenager because I was very much 19, but I turned 20 like 2 weeks later. But I can still...
So, I'm jealous. Even those 2.5 years you have on me, game changer.
I mean, yeah, you know what's interesting about that? When I was 19 doing... And I had this conversation with Jay Okerson before. When I was 19 doing stand-up, I had no life experience. I was in college and I was talking about college a little bit, but I had a lot of like set up punchline, like weird one-liners.
Yeah.
And then the more I got personal in my act, which came over time, it took me to not a whole different level, but I had no life experience, but I developed a skill set early on, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Can I hear some of the early zingers?
Oh my God. I'll tell you, one of my biggest home runs at the time was I was born and raised in a funeral home. My friends thought it was cool because I saw dead people all the time, but it was cool for me because I got laid every night.
That's a great joke.
That was a closer for years 2 and 3.
Wow.
I used to have a joke about Terry Schiavo where I said Terry Schiavo's family is releasing a CD in her memory. It's called Terry Schiavo Unplugged. I did that hosting at Helium one night, and a woman in the crowd goes, "Terry was my childhood friend."
Holy shit. Well,
Yeah.
I hope she liked it more then.
Yeah, no, she wasn't mad. She just brought up the fact that she knew her. And I had Chad Daniels on the podcast, and he told me a story of a buddy that was performing in Wisconsin and did Dahmer material, and one of Dahmer's victims' brothers was in the crowd.
Damn.
Yeah.
I mean, that just goes to show you. I mean, all we do is talk in front of large groups. Eventually you're going to hit a nerve,
Yeah, Terry Schiavo, I think she had ties to the Philly area, maybe like South Jersey or Philly suburbs. But Chad Daniels was like, "Yeah, man, how about you don't do the fucking Dahmer stuff where Dahmer was?" Because it was Wisconsin, so it was like right in the heart of where everything happened.
I disagree. I say you double down at the location. That's where you do it. I'm doing 9/11 jokes on Wall Street. I think that's where you should be doing it.
Do you remember the first joke you wrote?
I do. I had a lot of jokes, quote unquote, that never worked. I did this whole thing about Family Feud, like good answer. It's never a good answer, but it wasn't really jokes. It was more observational. And so I knew I wasn't getting the laughs that you need to get. So I really just pen to papered it and put my head down. And the first good joke I wrote was very Woody Allen. When me and my first girlfriend decided to lose our virginity to each other, I bled. And that was a killer for a while. Like, you're so bad in bed that I bled kind of thing. And
it's
that was
amazing. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, that was it.
No, it's amazing. Like your earliest jokes, that people laugh at, like you're learning, you're doing open mics and you're doing this earliest brand new material. It's a lot of it's not funny, but at the time it works. And then when you look back 10, 12 years later, you're like mortified by it. You're like, fuck, this isn't funny at all. The first joke though I ever wrote was like a setup. Well, not a setup. I was like 14 or 15 and I had a comedy notebook already because I just wrote stupid ideas down. And I wrote, my last name is House. I'm going to name my kids Whore and Crack. Which isn't really, it's not funny, but it's funny for a kid who's 14.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, it's clever. At least there's some thought to it. That's all I care about with comedy. Like, that's a great tweet, at least, pre-Twitter. But
I should tweet. You know what? I'm going to tweet it today.
Yeah, tweet it. Why not?
And then see if anybody is going to be like, "Hey, didn't you do that 16 years ago?"
That's how fucking psycho some of these Reddit nuts are. They're like, "Hey, I heard him do this in, Cherry Tree, New Jersey, or whatever the fuck, in '88." This hack.
Have you had anybody see you in a short time frame and then give you shit for doing the same material?
Yeah, well, I
Isn't that
mean,
weird? I don't get
I,
that. They're like, you
I,
did the same stuff last month. Yeah, that was last month.
I know. I had this yesterday. I did a show in Connecticut last night, and a guy was like, I saw you at this place in Connecticut. Now I'm here. We drove 2 hours. And I'm like, dude, that was 3 weeks ago. It's the same act. I mean, I have a couple of new lines in there, and he was so disappointed. And I was crushed because I was like, you're making me feel bad about not it's COVID, baby. I'm not pumping out material here, and I got to hone this shit that I have. So, like, I just put out a special in May. You want a new hour already? And then 3 weeks later, you want another fucking new set? Like, what are we doing here?
It's amazing. And I really give a lot of my friends credit because when I was like hosting, when I was new to hosting and hosting at Helium a lot of friends would come out. So now I really appreciate that support because I was probably, of my 15, I'm sure I had the same 7 I kept there, yet my friends still came all the time.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet of them. That's pretty nice. I mean, they get it, but most people and it's not even their fault. They don't know. I remember my first open mic, I would go watch. Like, I was too scared to go on, so I would just sit there and watch. Like, let me see what I'm up against. Mm-hmm. And this one guy blew my mind. I thought he was so funny. He's dead now of heroin overdose, but funny guy. And I went back the next week like, oh, that guy I like is on. And he did the same set, and it fucking crushed me. I felt like I saw the magician's tricks, but in my head, like, I didn't know. So I just thought he was a piece of shit.
I was, dude, I've been doing comedy like not even a year. I'm like, I don't know, not even a year. Brand new baby. And every week I would work on the same 3 or 4 jokes. And a woman who went by the stage named Peaches went on after me and spent her whole entire set making fun of me for doing the same shit week after week. And then the club manager pulled her aside and said, that's what you're supposed to do as a comic. And then I swear to God, she never came back.
What?
Yeah, this was literally 16 years ago. She made fun of me that night. The club manager had words with her. Never seen again. But wow. Peaches, I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that.
She's an idiot if she really thought that's how it went. I mean, Colin Quinn put it best. He said, a lot of people don't write, and they go on stage and they think, I'll just be funny. I'll just be brilliant. Because sitting down to write is actually proving that you're not that brilliant. And I think that's so true. So like these guys like, I'll work it out on stage. I'll figure it out up there. I'm a funny guy. I'll make it work. Those guys will never make it.
Oh, that makes my back hair stand up because that's just not how it goes. Mike Birbiglia had told a funny story. Mike was brand new. He was at Georgetown. And I think he either performed like twice or maybe 3 times, and he was doing this bar show, and the guy's like, can you do a half hour? And he said, yeah, and he did like 4 minutes.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I did Philly's Funniest. This must have been 08, 09.
That's where I met you. I swear to God, I have that written on this piece of paper. It said Philly's Funniest ? Because I knew I was right. Okay, good. I'm sorry. But yeah, that's where we first met. I remember that.
Yeah, that was a big deal. I took the Funghwa bus out there. I spent all the money I had getting out there. I'd take the Funghwa bus back every night. It was the Chinatown bus. It was cheap as shit. There was chickens on it in cages and all that
lots
shit.
Of heroin. And lots of heroin.
Lots of heroin, lots of weird smells. But I did the set. I had a good set. And then some other guy brought the whole house, so he won. But what's his name? Rich Miller was there. And he was like, I don't know who you are, but would you like to feature here? We liked your set. And I was like, oh, sure. And he's like, how much time do you have? And I just went, I was so green. I said, I got like 2 hours. Because I thought in my head, that's what a good comic has. But that's insane because I didn't even have 15. So he's like, all right, well, do 25 and we're going to have you open for Tommy John again. And I was like, who the hell's Tommy John again? I didn't know anything. And I had about 15 minutes to my name, and I stretched it every night and hung out with Tommy, and the rest is history.
Wow, I didn't realize you were. You didn't know I didn't realize you were that green when you were down here for Philly's Funniest.
I didn't know anything. I mean, I had a decent 5 minutes, and that was about it. But
what year was that? Do you remember?
It must have been 09, I think, or 08. It was very early on.
Wow, Rich Miller's a good dude, though. Have you kept in touch with him?
Oh, yeah. Great guy. He still books me. I love him. I mean, he gave me my first club shot.
Yeah. He's we've been very good. He's been very good to me. We have a good relationship. I think he likes me because I was honest with him years ago. Helium wasn't even open yet. Like in Philly, this was 2005, 2006. Weren't even open yet. But some of the people like Mark Grossman and Rich Miller were out and about town scouting out local talent and stuff. So Rich Miller calls me and invites me down to go look at Helium, and it's under construction. There's no carpet, there's no walls, It's drywall and plaster. And then he asked me if I could host opening night, and I said, I see this as a really big production, and you guys are really doing something major here, and I don't think I'm ready. And he respected that so much, and he has been amazing to me my entire career.
Good for you. So I mean, that's unheard of for a comic to do that. By the way, just completely the opposite of my story, where I completely lied and said I had more time, and you went the complete other way.
Well, we both won. He's good to us, and he's a good guy to know.
Hear, hear.
So how did your second set go? Was your second set at the same bar?
Second set was about 6 months later in New Orleans.
You took a break.
Took a break. Just the fear was too much. I mean, I would sit there and think about it. Like, I want to go up again. But I'll do it. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it next week. And it was so scary. And then I got drunk again, did another set in New Orleans at a bar called Lucy's, retired surfer bar. And it went horribly. And I made a pact. I made a vow to never get shit-faced again before. I can get shit-faced after, but not till I'm done. And once I did that, I started getting better.
Okay, so how many sets did it take for you to have the first good one that you wanted?
It took a while. I mean, and that was the thing. You had to wait a week in New Orleans because there was only one mic, maybe two. I think there was one on Friday. But you had to wait like 6 days or 5 days to get up again. So you really took it seriously. I wrote like crazy. I would talk into a recorder and then listen to it and then delete it and then talk into it again and then listen to it. I would leave myself voicemails because I didn't know how I sounded. And I wanted to sound okay or sound like a comedian. So I did so much prep, hours and hours.
Wow. Do you still kind of prep now?
I mean, I prep and I write, and I'm a big pacer douche. I got to pace.
Dude, I cannot sit still.
Same.
It's impossible for me to sit still.
Yeah, what's up with these guys who go to Starbucks? I'm going to go right. I'm like, you're going to go to Starbucks, the biggest land of stimulus. There's hobos. There's check, please. Hey, I'll take a latte, short, tall, medium. I mean, there's so much going on. How are you going to focus?
Dude, even when I'm standing in line at Starbucks, I notice that my feet are moving. I cannot sit still.
Yeah, same. These guys who just put their face in a notebook, that blows my mind. And also, I think the creative juices flow better when you're walking.
Yeah, I recorded the podcast earlier today with Rich Scheidner, and then in between yours and his, I took a walk. I needed to go outside for a half hour, 40 minutes. I just walked around my neighborhood for a half hour.
I'm the same way.
Gotta keep moving.
Walking's the most underrated thing we can do as humans. Shout out to Stephen Hawking and whoever else is in a wheelchair. But walking is so great. It gets the blood pumping. I try to get 10,000 steps a day. I got the little counter on my phone.
Oh, God. And do you look at your steps throughout the day?
Oh, yeah.
Isn't it crazy? It's like this weird little addiction. Yeah, I do the exact same shit.
It's my go-to. And then sometimes I'm like, man, I'm pretty low. So I'll be at the grocery store and I'll do a couple extra laps around the aisles just to get those numbers up.
I tweeted something similar when the pandemic first started. It's like going to CVS just to get my 10,000 steps in. Be back in 5 hours.
Yeah. Airport's a big one. We go to airports so much. So I'll just walk up and down all those those gates or whatever you call it.
Dude, I do the exact same thing. And there are better walking airports. Like O'Hare in Chicago is great because it's huge. And so's Jackson in Atlanta.
Right. Yeah, Atlanta's the biggest. Yeah, that's a great one.
I seem to always have layovers in Phoenix. So I know the Sky Harbor Airport like I know the Philadelphia Airport.
Right. Well, Phoenix. Who the hell's going to Phoenix for a layover?
Yeah, it's an American Airlines hub. So for an LA, San Fran, Portland kind of thing, Phoenix is pretty much if you have a layover, it's going to be in Phoenix because Philly is an American Airlines hub. It's the weird shit you pick up along the way. I would never know what airports have what airlines as hubs if I wasn't a comic.
Same. Yeah. Airports are big. The miles, all about the miles. How's your miles doing? What's your United, your Delta? That's a big one.
Gold member, platinum,
Yeah. I just want to get in that goddamn lounge. I'm pretty high up on my rates with COVID fucked me, but I was doing pretty good. I just want to get in that lounge. That's all I want out of life.
I paid for the lounge for a year.
Really?
Yeah. It was
How much?
fine. I want to say 400 or 500. I think
Wow, that's a lot.
I was American Airlines Elite 2 years ago. It was fine. Like it was fine.
Okay, I heard the story of a Chinese guy who used to buy a first class ticket, go to the lounge for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. He lived by the airport, and then he would exchange the ticket for a full refund. And he did that for like 5 years straight, and that always blew my mind.
Holy shit! Is there an actual article about that?
There is, yeah, I'm sure it's somewhere, but I read about it on Twitter, and I fell in love with the guy.
That sounds incredible.
Yeah. There's all kinds of weird loopholes. I mean, things are getting tougher now with the internet and the tracking and all that. But like, I think the 90s and 80s, it was like the heyday for all these little loopholes and scams.
Oh God, yeah. Anything before the internet, essentially, and tracking devices on phones. I mean, absolutely.
Yeah, you ever watch? I just was reading about a serial killer, and like it was in the 20s. And imagine what you could get away with in the 20s. No cameras, no DNA, no nothing.
So I open for Dan Cummins a lot. He's a great dude, very funny, but he
Killing it, by the way.
Yeah, oh yeah. His podcast is really his podcasts. He has 3 now. I can't remember if he had I think he had a bit about it. Like even in like the 1920s or 30s, you could like murder your entire family, do all this insurance fraud, get rich, move just like 7 miles away and start a new family.
Exactly.
Like you didn't even have to go far.
Yeah, you watch the Ted Bundy docs, and he would like kill a lady and then get on a bus and then go to Florida, and you're like, that guy was just on a bus. Isn't that insane? Like he didn't have to scan his phone. He didn't have to sign in with his credit card. He just got a bus ticket.
D.B. Cooper walked up to the airport in Portland, Oregon before he hijacked the plane and bought the ticket at the counter. That's like insane. And then he hijacked the plane, asked for ransom money, and got it.
Wow. Like, who's D.B. Cooper?
D.B. Cooper, well, nobody ever knows what happened to him. He hijacked this plane, demanded money, and the plane made an emergency landing in Seattle, I believe. They gave him this ransom money. The plane took back off. He jumped out with a parachute and was never seen again.
What?
It's a really cool story, man. If you got some time to kill, Dan has a podcast about it on TimeSuck, but it's worth the Wikipedia read. D.B. Cooper.
I'll be doing that right after I leave you, my friend. That's amazing.
So what's your writing process like? Do you write every day?
Well, I was going to say, I feel the same way about comedy as DNA. Like, imagine being a comic in the 50s and you're like, cats and dogs are different, and no one has broached this subject. Wouldn't that be just a paradise of premises? Oh, sorry. I cut you off there. No. But yeah, how do I write? I did write every day. I was a 5-day-a-week guy and take the weekend off.
Weekend, okay. So weekend was just reserved for the shows?
Yeah, but COVID is just killing me with the discipline and the, getting out and writing. And my lady works from home now, so I don't really have a lot of free, because I need I need a, what do you call it, space and privacy and all that. And I look like an idiot. I'm talking to a hairbrush in my underwear, So
yeah, that's exactly what it is. I say bits out loud and like do laps around the bedroom, and then I like walk past the fish tank through the kitchen as I'm like saying brand new premises out loud.
Yeah, one time my dad walked in on me. I wish he caught me jerking off, because it was way more embarrassing than that. It was bad. I'm just like, can you believe what's going on? Uber, huh? And my dad's like, hey, dinner's ready. I was like, oh, jeez, that was bad.
Do you remember the first time your parents came to see you do stand-up?
Jeez, it's so rare. I should remember. I think they came and saw me in New York once. They were visiting New York, and I was like, we're going to go get dinner, but I have a show at 7, so maybe we can eat at 8. And they were like, oh, we'll just come to the show. And
you're like, fuck.
I was like, oh, shit. And I had a weird set, and then I got heckled, and we didn't even it didn't even come up the rest of the night.
like you got caught jerking off. Like, we're never going to speak of this.
Yeah, like the Raven Lounge. It was a mic. It was a show, but it was in a grungy kind of divey place like that. And my mom's in like a fur coat. My dad's in a full suit with a bad tie. And they stuck out like sore thumbs. And they walked in right before my set, and it was like the record scratched. And it was a nightmare.
The first time my parents came to see me, it was at a club called the Laugh House in Philly. And I had been doing it maybe like 8 months to a year. I wasn't good, but I had like a passable 5.
Yeah.
And my stepsister was visiting from San Francisco that week, and then my stepbrother had friends in town. So I just wanted my mom and dad to come, but like 10 people ended up coming. And I just wanted to die. And the set was fine. I remember it wasn't bad, but it wasn't what I wanted. And I still just felt uneasy the whole night, even though it really wasn't a bad show. I wanted them to see something great. But then again, I was just doing 5 minutes. But
yeah, that's not so bad. And it sounds like they still love you, which is with my parents. I don't know if the love was there.
I like to think they still do.
It's a weird art form. You're talking about your dick. You're in a bar. Everybody's drinking. It's odd. You're talking about necrophilia, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, necrophilia. And I did have a dick joke. I had a joke about how tongue rings enhance sexual pleasure. So I'm getting my hand pierced.
Ooh, I like that.
That was another 19-year-old gem at the time.
I'm telling you, man, you had jokes at 19, which is more than I could say for most comics.
I'm trying to think of what other comics started as a teenager. I know Chappelle and Todd Glass.
Oh, really?
Because Chappelle was like 14. I think Todd Glass was like 16 or 17.
Wow. I think Hicks was pretty young, too.
Hicks was really young.
Yeah.
Who were some of your comedy influences before you got into stand-up? Like, what were some of the guys that made you think you could do it?
Well, before, it's the big ones, Seinfeld and George Carlin. And when the internet got bigger and bigger in college, I just went in like a deep dive. And I remember Hedberg was big in college. That was a big comic to like.
Oh, God, yeah. For me and my friends as well, we fucking worshipped Hedberg.
Yeah, I mean, Dane Cook was like the college comedian and taking the nation by storm, but he never really tickled my asshole the way Hedberg did and Stephen Wright. Then you just go on a deep dive. But when I found Chris Rock, it was over.
Oh, dude, I was just talking about Bring the Pain today.
Oh, man. And that's 3-on-3 with a half court. I mean, all that shit was huge.
And I love that you just mentioned Stephen Wright because my first episode of this podcast, I talk about my first set and my early comedy days and whatnot. So I'm 13 years old, and I go with my grandmom to Leavenworth, Kansas to visit her surviving relatives. I'm the only person in the house under the age of 75 years old. Everybody's going to bed early. I stay up late. I watch Letterman. I'm 13. I'm in Kansas. And Stephen Wright was the stand-up on Letterman, and I swear to God, my life changed that night. That was the first time. That was the first time I watched a stand-up on television and understood the entire. I've seen stand-up before. This is the first set I understood and loved, and I was hooked.
Wow, that's so cool! You got to see it like on TV live. I remember my family hated everything together, but we all liked the show Seinfeld. That was one thing we could all agree on. My mom hated The Simpsons. My dad hated this. He wanted to watch the news, whatever it was. So we all like Seinfeld. So when Seinfeld's show ended and he did the big stand-up special, I'm telling you for the last time, we all watched it on HBO when it came out, and it was fucking killer. We loved it. The whole family, my brother's laughing, my mom's laughing, and I remember that resonated with me because my family is so splintered that it was cool to see all of us enjoying something.
Now, is it weird now that you know Seinfeld?
Yes, it's all very weird, and I should be normal around him, but I still can't do it. And
dude, I can't. Dude, I'm with you. I can't shake that. I grew up. I was obsessed with Insomniac when I was in college.
Loved it.
Dude, I've worked with Dave Attell many times. I know him. He knows me. When I'm around him, I feel awkward as fuck still. And I've known him for easily 10 or 12 years.
Well, he's definitely I think he's probably the funniest. Norm Macdonald's up there, but I think Attell is the funniest guy I've ever met in my life.
Dude.
On and off.
What he says in the green room, just like his little asides and quips that are just meant for you or for the people within earshot are so fucking funny.
And
not to mention, he's a killer on stage. He is machine gun rapid fire.
Yeah. But off stage, you're like, oh my God. Like, he just made a joke out of the dumb thing I just said. That joke is better than anything in my act. Like, he's next level. He's a Jedi.
I've said that, like, I can't even imagine. Like, I would kill for his throwaway material.
I know, man. Same.
One of the coolest things that ever happened to me, and I say this because it happened with Dave Attell. I was featuring for him at the Buffalo Helium, and I had a set that was through the roof, and was a knock on the door. And the manager was like, hey, there's a couple guys out here that want to meet you. And it was me. Like, what? They loved my set, and they wanted to talk to me.
Wow.
And that same weekend, Dave and I are shooting the shit a little bit here and there. He's quiet, he keeps to himself a little bit, but he said something. He went off on a riff and went off on a tangent. He goes, "Pat, are you in the room?" And I go, yeah. He goes, "Write that down." And I felt like I had like a boner for a month at that. Like not only am I working with him, he asked if I was there, and then he needed my help. Like my hero needed a favor from me. And it's like, I love him and comedy so much that those are the memories that like make you the happiest,
Oh, completely. I mean, I'm totally with you. He's next level. Just the fact that he wants to work with you and he trusts you is a huge feather in your cap. It just feels so good. It's like we never got that from Dad. Then you get it from Dave Attell or Seinfeld or Louis or whoever, and you're like, oh my God, I needed that.
Yeah, it's awesome when you have these memories. It's so weird though, also when you get to become friendly with your heroes. Like, It's just so bizarre. Like, it's, okay, another comic. I'm a huge Brian Regan fan. I was in Vegas back in February with Dan Cummins, and Dan used to open for Brian, and we're all hanging out one night, and we go to dinner and a bar, and then we just cruise Vegas in Brian Regan's limo, and I'm sitting next to him, and I'm like, I'm in Brian Regan's limo. Wow. I watched his Comedy Central Presents before I was even doing stand-up.
Yeah.
And now I'm just in his limo cruising down the Vegas Strip. Like, what the fuck?
That's the coolest thing about stand-up. Somebody put it well. Like, if you're like a barroom guitar guy, like you just play the guitar at some bar, you will probably never meet Mick Jagger. But if you're a barroom comic, you can meet Seinfeld or Regan or Bill Burr or whoever the fuck.
Yeah, your heroes are attainable.
Yes, attainable. That's the way to put it.
Oh, okay.
My big moment was I did a set. I mean, I've told the story a million times, but I'll make it short. Did a set. Seinfeld saw it. He goes, "That was killer. Let's go talk." And I was like, oh, my God. We talked for an hour and a half. It's the best night of my life, whatever. And I'm leaving the club, and he's talking to the owner of Gotham. And I go, "Hey, I got some tips for you." I'm joking with him now. I'm like, "I got some tips on that coffin bit," or whatever the bit was. And he goes, yeah, good to meet you, whatever. 10 o'clock rolls around, 11 o'clock rolls around that night. I get a text from him going, "What do you got on the coffin bit?" And I go, Jesus Christ. First of all, I was joking. I had nothing. Secondly, he's asking my fucking opinion. He trusts my comedic knowledge so much that he's asking for my input, and that was enough for me. Talk about a boner. 10-year boner.
Seriously, that is awesome. That is so awesome. Now, did you have to did you feverishly start writing coffin material just to send him back something?
I did. I remember I couldn't think, my brain is mush. I'm freaking out. I can't get it up. So I go on my Twitter and I type in Mark Norman coffin. And I had a joke I wrote that was so stupid in like 10 years ago on Twitter. And I sent him that and he goes, "That's not bad." And I was like, all right. At least I sent him something. I wasn't going to send him, this prize-winning joke, but I gave him something. He was like, "That's not bad." So I'll take it.
Wow. Shit. I love shit like that. I love comedy. It's why I started this podcast. But when you hear something like that and your heroes are right there, not only attainable, but reaching out to you, that is it's still, after all these years of comedy, still makes me happy. And it's still so is this real? I still have that thought sometimes. How is this real? How is this real?
I'm the same way. And I'll sometimes, as you do, you bitch about your career. "Oh, I can't believe he got that," or why didn't I get booked on that? Whatever. But I had some opener guy, I'm not going to say his name, but he was like, "Dude, I would kill to be where you are." And it like hit me like a punch in the dick. I was like, "You're right. I should be grateful. I'm a headliner. I'm doing shows. I've been on TV. I'm an asshole. Forget I ever brought it up. I'm a lucky guy."
Yeah, but we're all insecure. I mean, it still comes down to we all compare ourselves to people. Like, I think that's just part of human nature. But,
right.
We also, as comics, we're such unique creatures that, we can't even enjoy it without some doubt.
Yes. I remember I was in the car going to Philly. Nate Bargatze was headlining. Joe List was featuring, and I was the douchey loser host. And Nate was like,
great lineup, dude. That's a
good
great
lineup.
show.
But I was so green. But Nate was driving. He's like, "Man, I just can't get Letterman. I cannot get I don't know what it's going to take for me to get Letterman. I'm clean. I'm perfect for it. I could kill Letterman." And List was fuming. And he was like, "What the fuck? You've done a half hour. You've done 2 Conans. I've got 0 credits. this idiot in the back can barely tie his shoes, and you're bitching about Letterman? And like he lost it on him, and it was so funny to watch.
That's the conversations that like comics really appreciate. You know, I've been doing this 16 years and I have no credits.
Well, there you go. It just shows the credits. They're meaningless.
It's meaningless, but I feel like it would be self-validating for me.
Sure.
Like, you know, if Letterman, for example, all these comedians throughout time have done Letterman, I would love to add my name to that pile.
I get it, but I got to say, Patty, you never left. Did you leave Philly?
Oh, yeah, I did. Well, no, but
That's
I did.
The problem.
Exactly. I did.
You'd be on Letterman 5 times by now if you lived in New York.
I did I did Hoboken for a year in 2011, but I didn't even utilize it the way I should have because I got better stage time and paid gigs in Philly, so I was driving back and forth every 2 or 3 days.
Right, exactly.
Like, I didn't feel like hanging out at 10 different bar shows, hanging out, not even performing, hanging out at 10 different bar shows when I can come to Philly and then do the Wednesday showcase and then pick up a hosting gig somewhere or something, you know?
Yeah, no, I get it. But that early part of New York is such a nightmare. I don't even know if I could do it again.
Yeah, I don't know if I would do it now that I'm in my mid-30s. I don't feel like it. I don't feel like hanging out.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that, like, Dan Cummins lives in Idaho. Nate's in Nashville. Miss Pat is in Indianapolis. Like,
yeah, Chad Daniels is in Minnesota.
Dude, I had Chad on the podcast. He's 3 hours outside of Minneapolis. He's in Fergus Falls.
Yeah, Chad is probably one of the most underrated. Like, he's got credits. He's done well. He's done specials. But as a guy, people talk about it. People are like, you got to see Andrew Schultz or Chris D or Sam Morril. But I'm like, Chad doesn't get his name and throw it in that mix enough.
Chad is so fucking funny, and I've been a fan of his for a long, long time. He is so funny. All his albums are great, and I feel like his popularity has gotten better the last year or two. He comes to the Philly Punchline every year, and I think the past couple of times he sold out the whole entire weekend.
Oh, great. Okay. I know he's huge on Pandora. He was like Pandora's #1 comedian.
Yeah.
So that's good. That's a good sign.
One thing, I don't know if you remember this or not, and it's not even like that accurate of a story, but the last time you and I worked together in Philly, I think you were opening for Schumer a little bit, and I was opening for Sebastian Maniscalco at the time.
Wow.
We were both
biggies.
we were both doing theaters at the time. What's the biggest crowd you performed in front of?
Well, I mean, I think it's definitely the Garden. We did the Garden 4 times.
Wow.
So,
you and her?
Yeah. She obviously headlined, and I swept the floors. But yeah, it was unreal, and I bombed 2 of them. So I know the sound of 20,000 people not laughing.
Wow. No, did you really bomb, or are you just saying that because you weren't happy with your set, or?
Well, I thought like I bombed the first 2, and I was like, well, it's the Garden. People are seating. People are buying drinks. People are finding their chairs. You know, it's not that bad. But then the second 2, I did great, and it was night and day. So I was like, okay, that was definitely a bomb. Now that I know what a kill can look like, that was definitely a bomb.
Was it just you two, just a 2-person show?
Well, that's the thing. The first 2 it was me, then her, and the second was Rachel Feinstein, me, then her. And just having that Jewy buffer was a game changer because she got to eat. She ate a lot of the audience seating, and I got to be a comic. You got the real meat of the. It's funny in some of the theater gigs I've done with Sebastian. Like you're on stage, and the room is dark, but you can see like the entranceways from the hallway. They're all lit up, and every single one has people. You're like, I can hear the room coming in. It's such you're not fully set up. You're the sacrificial lamb. You just got to set all that up. Like sometimes I'll see food going out at a comedy club, and I'm like, oh, thank God the opener's got to deal with that burger because no one's going to laugh with a burger in their mouth. So by the time they're done that burger, I'll be up. What was it? I forget what I was going to say. It was about. So March of last year, I'm opening for Segura, and we're at the Hard Rock in Fort Lauderdale. We're doing like the 5,000 seater. Wow. And man, was that show not that great. It took me like 3, and a lot of the crowd was set. I looked at the crowd before the show, like the majority of the room is there. There's definitely 4,000 plus in this room. And it took me a good 3 or 4 minutes to get the whole room together. And you're like, oh, that's what 5,000 people sounds like. All right. And then it took me 3 or 4 minutes to get that laugh again.
And I was like, fuck. And I came off stage very, not annoyed, but like I felt like I let him down, like I let the crowd down. And then I'm watching Tom, who's headlining, obviously, in front of 5,000 people here for him. And they're kind of giving him the same treatment. Not everything is getting the whole entire room. So I immediately feel so much better.
Yeah.
Like it's definitely the crowd. So I'm standing there when Tom came off stage. He looks right at me and go, they were fucking weird, right? And I was like, oh my God. I immediately felt a million times better about myself.
Thank God. But is that a casino?
Yeah, it's a casino,
Come
but
on.
Exactly. But I mean, yeah, casino, but there's still 5,000 people there for him. These aren't off the street dickheads. They're there for Tom Segura. But I was like, man, for weeks I was like, 5,000 seats. I'm doing a big show, big show. I'm on stage and I'm like, man, I cannot wait till this is over.
No, I get it. I bombed in Kalamazoo for 20 minutes and it was just silence with a bunch of guys with camo hats staring at me like, who's this idiot? And it was painful. I had the back sweat going. My legs were trembling. You know, you got the dry mouth. You can barely get the words out. You're stumbling over your own bits. Oh, nightmare.
Was that an opening or were you headlining?
I was opening for Schumer in Kalamazoo, and I could see her at the side of the stage like, good boy. And that made it even worse.
How much time did you guys do together? Like, how much would you do and how much would she do?
It was pretty perfect. She would have a jazz band go on and, like, kind of do time as the room gets set up. And then I would do 20, and then she would do an hour. And it was easy peasy, one show a night, private jet, 4 seasons. I mean, it couldn't have been a cushier gig for me.
That's fucking sweet, dude.
I bought an apartment with the money. I mean, it was a game changer.
That's all. That is awesome. Private jet, 4 seasons, dude. That is the life.
Well, she likes the luxury. I mean, the restaurants were high end, and I mean, I was drinking top notch scotch every night, and it was just I didn't realize that what I had when I had it. You know, because you get normal. Everything gets normal.
Yeah, I was with Sebastian for a good stretch of time. Like he used me a lot over like an 8-month span.
Wow.
So funny when like your friends are, you know, at the Indiana Chuckle Fuck, and then you realize your past 10 shows were all in front of 1,000 people or more.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh shit, I haven't done the Harrisburg Comedy Zone in a while. And then like, and then you go there and you're like, oh, okay, you know what? I needed this weekend to keep me grounded.
Yes. Comedy will be high, the biggest highs and lows, you know, and it's good for you because you got to be able to do well in both of those rooms.
Absolutely. Did you have a lot of fun doing those big shows? They're not all that they're cracked up to be.
No, I agree. I mean, it was all the surrounding stuff. It's like Thanksgiving. Like the turkey's okay, but I like the sides. And I felt the same way with her shows. It was like she would get a police escort from the hotel to the arena, or we would helicopter in, or we would be a private jet. I mean, it was banana. It was like fucking Led Zeppelin. It was crazy. And then the crowd's going wild, and they got T-shirts, and the green room was jam-packed with all these amazing goodies and food items, and it was just great. Like we do a gig in Columbus, Ohio, and then we get a private jet back to New York. You're in your bed by midnight.
That is ridiculous. That is so awesome.
Crazy, man.
That's the kind of shit that makes it seem like a dream.
It was completely a dream. I remember one time we were at the Teterboro Airport, which is like the airstrip for private jets in New Jersey. Yeah. Most of the New Yorkers fly out of there. We were waiting for our jet to be fueled or whatever, and Bill Maher comes in, and he's like, Amy! And Amy's like, hey, what's up, Bill? And they hug, and they're talking shit. And then we just got on a jet and left. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? This is so crazy. Bill Maher was talking to you for 2 seconds ago. Not that he's the biggest guy on the planet, but it was just so weird that we're at an airport. I'm eating free cookies. Bill Maher walks in, they chat, then we get on a jet. The whole thing's insane.
The shit that's surreal.
Yeah. Boy, is it surreal.
Isn't it weird when there's a celebrity in the crowd? Have you had any random people in the audience?
That used to really fuck with me, but I've gotten over it. Like at one point, Adam Driver was in the crowd with some Hollywood girlfriend, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And I just did my act, and I was like, he can't do this. Fuck him.
Opening for Sebastian, there was some like weird people in the crowd. I'm on stage at the Paramount in Huntington, and I look out, and then there's Bill O'Reilly. I'm like, what the fuck? And then he came backstage, and he looked at me and said, very good set, young man.
And he's like
thanks,
8 feet
Bill
tall,
O'Reilly.
Right?
Yeah, he was bigger than I thought.
Yeah,
One time
wow. That's wild.
I was eating a dick in the Hamptons. I'm bombing. Like, I'm bombing. I'm not having fun. The crowd's not having fun. But there's somebody in the crowd who's really enjoying my set. And I could tell. I could see this one person, like, actively enjoying and having a good time and laughing. And it was Tony Danza.
Whoa.
And it was so random. But in my green room, I'm still beating myself up. I'm like, that crowd sucked. Was it me? I didn't feel good. I should have put more into this. He comes to my green room. He's like, fuck these people. And like, I was having a rough, I had a bad set. So I'm in my own head. And I got a pep talk from Tony Danza.
Wow.
What a weird fucking.
Unbelievable. That's like a Mad Libs.
Yeah. It's some of the most random, fun shit happens though.
By the way, the Hamptons, horrible for comedy. It just stinks. I bomb there constantly.
All of Long Island. In my opinion.
Yeah, I didn't want to say it, but yeah.
Oh, I will. Sebastian and I, he sold out 12 shows at the Paramount. We did 12 shows in 7 days, and I think I liked 3 of them. I never in my entire life encountered so many chatty crowds. Yep. People just blatantly yelling shit out, people not paying attention, people with their back to the stage. And I'm like, what the fuck? I mentioned this on the podcast earlier today, but I would do 15 and he would do 75 to 90. And on one show, they were so fucking bad. I couldn't corral them. I tried. They were not listening. I did my 15. He got off stage at 45.
Whoa, you see, that's the thing these crowd idiots don't get is you're ruining your own show, you retards.
Yeah,
this is a ticket you paid for and you're making it worse.
I couldn't believe it. My jaw hit the floor because I've never seen him do that, but this crowd they were terrible. He walked right by me and just went, fuck these people. Whoa. And I thought it was so fucking cool that he deprived the crowd of half the show, but it was their fault.
It's their fault. And you've seen Comedian, obviously, with Seinfeld. I mean, He talks about Long Island. He's like, oh, Long Island, that's really Alabama. And then he's on stage and he's going, shut the fuck up. How big do I have to be for you to shut the fuck up?
Yeah, I had one show. So have you done the Paramount?
No, I never have.
Okay, it's a small theater, and like if you're on stage, right up to your right, there's a low balcony. And on one of the shows, a guy had his back towards the stage talking to his friend. And since the balcony's low, I could hear this whole conversation as I'm on stage in front of 1,200 people. So I look up and I go, hey, man, you want to sit down and watch the show? He doesn't even turn around. He cocks his head behind him and gives me a sarcastic thumbs up and then goes back to his conversation.
Oh, man, what a psycho. He's basically saying like, oh, you're not Sebastian, whatever.
Dude, but it was so funny to see these crowds that bought expensive tickets to see him still not give a shit. It was so bizarre.
I'm sure he cleared $500,000 that weekend, so he's like, fuck these chooches.
Can't even imagine. All right, dude, I'm gonna let you go. Dude, thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, you got it, man. That was fun. I could talk comedy all night. I hope anybody finds that interesting who doesn't do stand-up.
Yeah, I know people that listen that aren't stand-ups. They enjoy hearing the inside talk, which is kind of cool. Yeah,
great. I assume everyone hates anything I'm doing.